thank you for watching. My name is Rachel Rader and this is Rachel's Card Studio. Today I'm going to be going over one of the products from Stampin' Up! That I think is the most underrated in the new mini catalog. You can find it on page 65, and it is the Butterflies and Flowers Layering Decorative Masks. It's only $10, and it's really easy to miss in this catalog because there are so many options in here. But it's so versatile, and I'm going to show you a few techniques on how to use ink with them. Now you can use textured embossing paste, but today we're just going to do ink. I'm going to start off by showing you how I apply the ink, and then I will show you a sample card that I've made with each of them. So when I start off doing any sort of stenciling with ink, I like to put a little adhesive on the back of my paper just so it stays nice and still. Not a whole lot, just a little at the top, a little at the bottom. And then line it up with a grid. That way it is really easy to make sure that my stencil is straight. So here is the first stencil. I guess I could get a piece of paper and that way you can see the design. Here's the design. Flowers. The one good thing about stenciling is you can make your own paper. You could decorate it however you want. You could add as many colors as you want. So if you're making a card with a specific color scheme and you don't have any paper to match that, you can always whip out a stencil and create your own paper. So for this first one, I'm going to be using the So Saffron Stampin' Up! Classic Pad. And for all of these demonstrations, I'm going to be using the blender brushes. I have a blender brush just in about every color family. So I'm going to be using my yellow one for this one. And when you add ink, you're just going to gently rub on it. And then I always like to use a scrap piece of paper and start off, because if you have too much ink on here, it could look splotchy. So I like to start on a separate piece of paper just to see how much ink is already on there, and that way I don't start off too dark. You can always build up, but once it's on there you can't take it off. So just really gently, I'm just going to do one color over this whole thing. And it does take a little time to, if you're doing a full sheet. This piece of paper that I'm using is 5 by 3 3/4. So depending on the size of the paper, it depends on how much ink you're going to use and how much time it's going to take. But it's really not too bad to do a full sheet of paper. And I just used a little bit of washi tape to hold it down. That way it stays right in the same spot. And it looks very splotchy on video, but it's in person, it's not too bad. I think that's just the way that the light is picking it up. Once you take the mask off, it looks completely different. It's really easy to miss the edges, so you make sure you go along all the edges. When you're using ink and stenciling, you're more than likely going to get some ink on your hand just by touching the stencil and trying to keep it all in one spot. So keep some baby wipes on hand, or hand sanitizer, or try to wash your hands in between projects because you might get ink all over. Take this off. And then there you have a really cute design that didn't take very long, and you can match it up with whatever stamp set you're using. If you're using another designer series paper, here I just used it for the background. And the examples that I'm showing you are super simple card layouts. I didn't want to get too complicated. I really wanted to focus on how easy it is to use these stencils. So this stamp set that I used for it is the Honeybee Home. And this is the flower that I used. And then I just colored it in with blends. So there's example number 1. You get 6 stencils in the pack. I'm only going to be showing you 5 of the 6, just to try to save on some time. So the next stencil is leaves, and I had a little bit of difficulty with this one just because these aren't attached. They move around so much. So I'm going to show you what I did to try to make it stick better, the ink, and not shift around. So I'm going to adhere this down. I'm going to reuse this washi tape. You can use it for a while. Alright, so for this one I'm going to be using Mossy Meadow. I'm going to get my green brush, and same thing, just going to add some ink, go off a little bit. But what I did for this one is I kind of held the stencil at the top and at the bottom and went mostly up and down because all of the rows in the center were shifting. So I just made sure to secure them. And this is the one where I got a little inky on my fingers. Trying to make sure it didn't shift too much. You're just going to gradually build up. This one, the circular motions to get the ink to go on there didn't work as well. But I kind of wanted it to be a lighter background anyway. Not too vibrant, just a really pretty leaf pattern. And again, I'm still making sure I'm getting in the corners. And if you're using a stencil and you know that you're going to put something right in the center, you don't have to ink right there. You can just ink around the edges or whatever side you're, you know is going to be exposed on the card. So you don't have to spend all that time and ink on the piece of paper. So if you want to check to see how it looks, you can always flip it up and then carefully put it back down if it's not the way that you want it to look. So here's the leaf stencil. And then for the card, I used Eden's Garden stamp set. And then I just used this stamp here because it looked the most like that pattern. And then I just stamped off a couple times in the Mossy Meadow. And then I used my Stamparatus to get that thank you. I stamped it, I think, 3 times to make sure it was super dark and stood out. But I wanted this card to be monochromatic. So there's that one. We're going to do one more background stamp and then a couple patterns. So for this next stencil, really cute design. And we're going to be using 3 different colors. So, same process. Going to adhere it a little bit. Then use some washi tape. So I started with the Melon Mambo in the left top corner. This one was super dark. I'm just holding on. Got about 1/3 of the way. And then switched over to Gorgeous Grape in the center. Some of these ink pads hold ink really, really well on the blending brushes, and then some you have to swirl around quite a bit to get it to hold on to that ink to be able to transfer. But these colors here, all 3 of them, were pretty vibrant, which is what I wanted for the card I had in mind. So kind of just doing a rainbow design going through this card. And then for the last color, we're going to do Bermuda Bay. Get these out of the picture. I think this design was my favorite. Comment below which design was your favorite. But wait till the end of the video so you can see the other 2 stencils. Very pretty, so easy. Nobody would know that you stenciled this. It looks like designer series paper that you could customize to your card. So there's that one. And here is the card that I made with it, using the Catching Butterfly stamp out of the Celebration catalog. And now we have a very cute butterfly that you can layer up and make really pretty. So for this one, I am using a scallop contour die. The dies don't have individual names, but here's the die set. And I love this. All of the little borders, all of the scallops. It is such a good die set. So I used one of the scalloped rectangles for this one. So the butterfly fits perfectly on it. I'm going to lay that down. And then I'm going to start with the base layer. So I'm going to use my washi tape, tape it down. And then for this, I'm going to add, probably not that big. I'm going to add some little scrap pieces to cover up. Try to play here a little bit. Make sure they fit and cover nice. There we go. Then I'll just use washi tape to secure that. That way you don't add any ink where you do not want it to go. And you can use Post-it notes for this. You could use masking tape, but I always have paper lying around, scrap paper, so it's really easy to just add it on there. So I'm going to again use the So Saffron. And just going to lightly add color. And again, you're going to want to build it up, not start off too dark or too much pressure. But these blending brushes are so smooth. Trying to use like sponge daubers for a surface area this big doesn't get quite as clear. It's very, very splotchy. So I'm so glad Stampin' Up! Brought out these blending brushes. All right. So then the top layer is the bottom, so you're going to line it up with the butterfly where you want it to go. And then same thing, going to cover these up, all the extra little holes. And I'm going to cover the bottom too. Alright, so then I'm going to use Blushing Bride. Just going to hold that on there. Go over top of each wing. All right. Take all these little masks off. And then here is the butterfly. So adorable and so easy. So the example card that I made with this here had that So Saffron and Blushing Bride in the Designer Series paper. And that's also in the Celebration catalog. It's out of the Sunshine and Rainbows Designer Series paper pack that you could get free with a purchase for $50. So there's that one. And then we have one last stencil for this video. And it is these adorable flowers. So pretty. So again, I'm going to use the scalloped, same size that I used for the butterfly. Just adding a little tape. I'm going to get some more washi tape because at this point those are pretty inky. So I'm going to use the bigger side. It's kind of hard to tell. There's one that is the outline, and then one that is more of the inside details. So I'm going to use the top one, line it up in the center, and then same thing, I'm going to add my mask down here. Alright, so I'm going to use again the Blushing Bride for this top flower. And this one you have to be a little more careful to not bleed into the next flower. It's really easy. So I just did a light layer. I'm going to use Melon Mambo again. This flower over here. Again, just carefully going along. Don't bleed. I'm going to use Pool Party. And I'm going to use the same blender brush that I used the Bermuda Bay, but I'm just going to take it and make sure that dark color comes off of there. And then once it's pretty clear, I'll use the Bermuda Bay. I'm using that on the left flower. And then I'm going to use So Saffron. I know it's a lot of colors for this one, but I wanted them to all be separate. On this bottom one here. Just carefully daubing it. Probably these smaller ones, it would have been easier to use a sponge dauber. I'm going to shift these up. Because now I'm going to need this side. So then it'll completely cover the white spots on here. So you just have to line it up. Tape it down. I'm going to use a couple smaller masks. And then just add another layer. And this one I'm going to go over just a couple times to make sure that it looks darker. But I'm just using the same colors for each flower. But that extra layer will make it look darker and more defined. In order to clean these stencils when you're done, you could rinse them under water because you can see that there's ink buildup. It'll stay on the mask, which you have to be careful because then you'll get the inky fingers. So you can take a baby wipe or just run it under some water to get these cleaned, but make sure you let it dry all the way before you use it again. So then here is that one. I probably would have gone a little darker with the blushing bride around the center, but it doesn't have to be perfect. But here is the design for the card that I used. And again, I used the Sunshine and Rainbows designer series paper out of the free catalog and coordinated these colors to go with that designer series paper. Alright, so I'm going to lay all of the sample cards out, and I would love for you to tell me which one is your favorite design, because for only $10 you get all 6. So the 6th design for the stencil is leaves that you can add to here, and then some additional flowers. Alrighty. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed these stenciling techniques. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And if you like this video as well, I would greatly appreciate it. Let me know in the comments below which card and stencil is your favorite. Thank you.